Hello and welcome to my blog. My name is Dr. Shanai, and my today's topic is a popular topic called as ketogenic diet. Ketogenic diet, or in short called as keto diet. So this keto diet has become so popular these days. Particularly in the last few years, it has caught the fancy of many people, and also many doctors have started prescribing this kind of a diet to some of their patients, not all, to some of their patients. See, this kind of a diet was even earlier, but the thing is, it was not very popular. So there was a person called Atkin, okay, so who has propagated certain kind of diet which is similar to this keto diet. And in keto diet, there are certain three or four types, and but generally what the doctors these days prescribe that kind of a ketogenic diet. I'm going to tell today. Okay, I'm going to discuss. So what happens, say our body requires glucose, right? You agree? Our body requires glucose. Glucose is the main food for many tissues, many cells, and all that, and also the brain. For the brain, main food is glucose. Main food is glucose. All right. In the absence of glucose, the emergency food for the brain is what is called as a ketone. Ketone. Only two kinds of food for the brain. Okay. So what happens in so glucose comes from carbohydrates, sugars, and those kind of things. Suppose from 70 to 80% of the carbohydrates what you were eating earlier, or 50, 60%, whatever it was, now you bring it down to around 10%. What will happen? Your body will have acute shortage of glucose, right? Whatever you eat, and it will be quickly consumed, right? So you replace your diet with the 10% of carbohydrate, around 20% of proteins, because proteins are very much necessary. You can't do away with the protein. Okay, you can't do away with protein. And rest of the 70% you replace with the fatty food. Believe it or not, fatty food. The fatty food which was not recommended, which you thought was very harmful for the body, oily food, this, that. Now the doctor will recommend that, okay, in the ketogenic diet. So 10% will be carbohydrates, around 20% will be proteins, and around 70% will be fatty food, fat. Okay, so this 10% is for the basic quick needs of the body. 10% of glucose and proteins are required. Proteins you can't do away with. You can't live without protein. Okay, so proteins are required for the many tissues. They're the basic building blocks of the body. Okay, then 70% of the fat. Why 70% of the fat? Because this glucose, the carbohydrates, whatever you have taken, it quickly burns into and converts into glucose, and this glucose is quickly consumed for the emergency purpose. After that, what happens? The liver starts supplying the glucose, because the liver has stored extra glucose. What happens to that? It goes and sits in the liver. Liver also stores a fat and some proteins. So this starts releasing that glucose. It was stored in the liver in the form of glycogen. Now it starts pumping into the blood, because it's an emergency. Okay, in the absence of or in the shortage of carbohydrates. Okay, so it pumps that glucose back into the blood, and it circulates and it reaches the brain. Brain is happy, and also the tissues and cells in all the parts of the body. Okay, is supplied. So what happens after the liver has consumed all the glycogen storage, whatever was there, it is empty now, zero. What happens then? Okay, so now there is a severe crisis, okay, of food for the, particularly for the brain will not function. Okay, immediately it'll stop functioning. Okay, the person can't think. Okay, so then what happens? As an emergency food, the body starts preparing what is called as a ketone is a sort of fatty thing, sorry, it's converted fat into certain kind of acids. That is what is called as ketone. This ketone is now the emergency food for the brain. The second food after the glucose, if the glucose is not available, it's a ketone. If the ketone also is not available, then brain is gone. Okay, it will be dead soon. Okay, so this ketone, where does it come from? It comes from the fatty layers of the body. So our body will go into a state of ketosis. Suppose you don't supply carbohydrates properly. Okay, now a person who follows this ketogenic diet, who has around 10% of carbohydrates, 20% of protein, and 70% of the fat inside. Okay, so this 10% is quickly consumed. Body will go into a state of ketosis in 3 or 4 days. Okay, and whatever the fat in the body, it starts, the body starts consuming, it starts processing, in other words, starts burns, and that energy is supplied in the form of ketones. Okay, ketones. So and you can't rely on the body fat. Okay, so body will the person will start losing the fat from the fatty layer will start disappearing. The person who was obese will start losing the weight. Okay, and a person, within a few days this happens, and there begin shortage of fat, right? But you are supplying it through the food, that's 70% of the fat. So now that starts burning along with the body fat. Okay, so fat plus fat here, the external fat what you are consuming, and also the fat which is accumulated in the body starts burning together. So the person will start losing the weight. Okay, it was probably it was introduced as a weight reducing kind of technique, this ketogenic diet. Okay, main food will be the fat. It will burn, and it will supply the energy. You need the energy, right? And the food for the brain and also the tissues, and for proteins you can't do away with. The proteins are required, 20% at least, 20 to 25%, because that is those are called as the building blocks of the bodies that is required. That is coming from those 20%. Okay, no problem. So main food now is fat. Main food now is fat, which was considered bad, in the early days. Okay, or you thought it was bad. Now that is the main food. Okay, nothing to worry because it won't get stored. It gets consumed very fast. I hope you get the picture now. Okay, so this exactly is what is called as ketogenic diet. Fat is consumed instead of carbohydrates. Carbohydrates a little you are eating around 10%. You can't 100%. You can't give up because it's an immediate food. Now the immediate energies comes from the carbohydrates. So later energy the body has to burn the thing. It comes from the because these carbohydrates get metabolized very fast and it gives the immediate energy. The 10% is gone. 20% is protein and which required for the muscles and other tissues, okay, connective tissues and other things. And rest of the 70% now has come from the fat. So this fat is supplied through certain foods like meat, a lot of meat. Person will start eating a lot of meat, a lot of fish, oily kind of food, oily kind of food, okay, because certain oily food, certain oils are prescribed along with the food, mixed with the food and all that. A lot of eggs are prescribed. Okay, so that will those will supply a lot of fat along with the proteins. Okay, along with the proteins, and so they contain some carbohydrates as well, right? Carbohydrates as well. Some nuts like pistachios, almonds, and flax seeds. These kind of nuts, which contain protein as well as certain amount of fat and a bit of carbohydrates also. So the doctor will actually calculate how much carbohydrates is available from all this kind of food. Okay, depending on your food preference. So at least 10% if it is available, the doctor is happy. 20 proteins anyway is available in those kind of foods, and a lot of fatty things are added to that, oil and these kind of things, which will not accumulate in your body. It will burn off, okay, and turn into ketone bodies. Okay, so now the main food for the body is ketone, got, not glucose. All right, bit of glucose for emergency purpose has come daily by 10% of carbohydrates. Okay, you understood the concept, right? Um, and fruits almost you give up, don't eat fruits because it contains a lot of fructose, and many fruits contain fructose, and so it's you give up that. Even vegetables are not recommended here, but certain leafy kind of things are recommended. Okay, so this is the kind of diet. Then you drink a lot of water. Water is required, of course. So this kind of diet you follow, okay, which is contrary to the traditional diet. Okay, uh, so the person who is under keto diet, after 3 or 4 days of this kind of diet, he'll go to a state of ketosis. The body will body enters a metabolic state called as ketosis, and a lot of ketone bodies are supplied. Person is happy, and energy is there, good energy because of the ketone bodies. Now the energy is from the ketone, not from glucose. Very less, only 10% is from glucose. This is the concept. So person will lose weight, he will become slim. Okay, happy, doctor is happy, patient is also happy. Okay, so this is a kind of diet. This is called as ketogenic diet, and some variations are there which I will not discuss today and confuse. Okay, so this is the basic type concept of ketogenic diet. All right, there are certain side effects You may ask, yeah, there are certain side effects. A lot of people complain of constipation in the beginning. Later, their body may get adjusted because the digestive system is not used to this kind of food. Okay, this kind of enormous kind of fat and meaty sort of stuff, So it tries to adjust to this food and ultimately may get adjusted or may not get adjusted. If the person doesn't get adjusted, the digestive system doesn't agree with this kind of, is taken off from that diet, and normal diet is followed. Okay, a little more amount of carbohydrate maybe, which is easily digestible. Okay, otherwise, person will get adjusted in the long run. Then certain people complain of bad breath. Bad breath. That is mainly because ketone bodies will induce the bad breath. It's because it's a acidic kind of thing. Okay, so it induces a peculiar kind of smell to the breath. That is the main problem for many patients. They have to use a lot of mouthwashes and all that to mask that. Okay, and certain people may complain of sleeplessness. We call it insomnia. Okay, sleeplessness. Person may not get sleep, in the initial stages particularly, and certain persons may develop certain other symptoms like sort of fatigue sort of thing in the initial stages. But all this may come to control. If it doesn't come to control, doctor may take off that patient from that particular diet and put the patient back into slightly more of carbohydrates and less of this fat, and try to adjust, according to that person's uh, body type and how the person will get adjusted to that. So you get the concept now, right? You get it. If you have any doubt about it, please put it in the comment box. I'll be very happy to answer. Okay. The detailed description about what a doctor may prescribe, I'll tell in one of the future videos. The kind of food, exact food, what the doctor may prescribe, and depending on your type of eating. So, for example, if you're in India, the Indian doctor may prescribe something. If you're in Europe, the European doctor may prescribe something else, and Americas, So there are different places, different kind of diets may be prescribed, but rich in fat, 70% fat, 20% protein, and 10% of carbohydrates. So this is in brief the concept of ketogenic diet. Ketogenic means ketones are manufactured in the body. Okay, ketone bodies are manufactured in the body. All right. So this is in brief. I told, if you like this video, please share among your friends and also ask them to subscribe. You also please subscribe to support my channel and grow my channel. I'll be very happy to put more and more videos for your knowledge. Thank you very much for being with me. Take care. Stay healthy. Bye.